Good evening, everyone. It's almost like I had some problems with technology. And so you're going to be like, I see two people. Do they look strange and odd because I've formatted them weirdly? Also, Zoobs, take one step, slide to your left. And your other left. And, well, that's too far. That's perfect. No, you had perfect. There. Nope. A little bit more. No. Why do you only have one? Are you just like Fast and Furious? You just have quarter mile at a time?
I'm a one speed person.
So if you scooch back just a little bit, you look like a normal human. There, right there. You know what? Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, what is...
I'm also dealing with, I'm looking at two screens here and I'm moving at different timing.
All right. Hold on. I've got two super chats here. Hold on. I got to ruin my night to start, everyone. Lyle Dixon, $5 super chat. I love cockles. Brad Chester, parentheses. Cockles are both a type of seafood and an opportunity for someone to cut a clip of Brad saying part of that word. Always looking out for me, Lyle. Probability. God damn it. Let's start this off right with a Go Blue. All right. Now things can start off.
Hanging out with my brother Core Blue over here.
We're doing stuff. We're doing things. We've got...
So for those who don't know, I'm Brian Horton. That's Brad Chester. And Steve, why don't you introduce yourself?
I am Zoobs. I am just happy to be here.
I mean, you could have been here better, but somehow having Zoobs on the call immediately blew up my format. I don't understand how it happens. Your mere presence nuclear bombed my formatting.
Yeah, Skype just assumed I came here to complain, and it was like, nah, dude, not vibes tonight.
So I decided that we're doing a Thursday sit by the fire. We'll figure it out. Because most of tonight's going to be on a what do I hope happens?
Absolutely. So I came up with this idea of like, we know that the points balance change is coming up. It's not supposed to be a full balanced data slate according to everything they wrote in their article. It's supposed to be a points adjustment. So I kind of went with, hey, let's talk about our hopes for things. So I figured we could just start out and just kind of run down via faction by faction and talk about them and see what we all think.
First off, let's talk about what we think is actually going to be there. So we're going to have an Orc Codex, we're going to have a Tau Codex, we're going to have a Custodes Codex, and we probably have a Chaos Detachment? Is that what we're getting in there? Plus the points?
No,
obviously? I
don't think we're getting the Chaos Detachment just yet. We're not supposed to get the Emperor's Children stuff until the Chaos book officially comes out.
Now, is that going to be you think that's going to be a White Dwarf, or is it going to be a digital download?
Digital download.
Okay.
And they probably won't announce it. It'll just randomly appear one day.
It'll be in one of the FAQs where no one knows it's there. I do like the fact that I appreciate everybody that sends them to me. I never know when something comes out until someone messages me because they never give an update of any of that shit. They just sneak it in. Like, oh, remember when you were now cheating because you don't know the update? Like, what? Where? How? When?
But no, my guess is we'll probably get the Orc Codex and the Custodes Codex points, and probably not the Tau in the first one. It'll probably come out in a patch after the fact because
I don't think I disagree with that. I'll put a sandwich bet up on that one. I think you're going to get all of the stuff in there.
All right, it'd be great if we did. I absolutely would love to see it.
I know that this is about the only thing right now GW is doing that I have serious complaints about is this Codex release.
Clint, I am such a fan to hear that because Zuber and I are about to TO a quote-unquote super major 8-man teams event down at Battle for Salvation. If you haven't had a chance to go to any of their events before, they do a fantastic job. And we're looking forward to it. It's our first 8-man WTC teams judging, so we're going to have a good time with that.
Corey's got a good comment. Why did they not just update the rulebook PDF? I was so pissed trying to find updated towering rules last night. They literally put them all in the update in the rules commentary. Usually you can take your rulebook and just kind of throw it in the garbage and then just grab the rule commentary. At least it's not, I don't know if everybody's been playing long enough for this, but do you guys remember when demons had a book where none of the rules actually applied to the game.
Yeah.
Like the entire codex of all of their rules, none of them actually were in the game.
Yeah, weren't they like 2 White Dwarf articles?
And they had
book from other thing, and then a Crusade book.
Yep. So they had shit like your armor. I can't even. They had so much bonkers shit, like rules that weren't even there. Their special rules didn't exist. It was just crazy at the time. Like you could
had 0 units. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. The playmaker was 4, maybe, but it was so funny because if you walked out of the store with the Demon Codex, you effectively just set it on fire when you got home because none of your shit was existed.
I always enjoyed pulling out my 7 shredded sections of the Harlequin Codex from the White Dwarf. Trying to piece. No, I swear, I'm missing the centerpiece. It tore off under a chair somewhere.
The army that I was trying to figure this out the other day. Somebody asked me at the tournament over the weekend, what army had the most books? And I think it was Tyranids. When you
7.
had 7 had books for everybody because you had to have every Gathering Storm since 8th edition. You know what I mean? Which
the Tyranids had 7 books at one time.
That's because they had your main book, the Leviathan, White Dwarf article, which I think was Leviathan.
Yeah, you had a ball book.
Oh, the Devastation of Ball.
Yep. You had a Crusade book. You had Imperial Armor. You had the Imperial Armor update. And what the hell was the other book? I know it was 7 books that I was carrying around when I was playing them.
There were 3.5 edition D&D players that feel sorry for you.
Yeah, I was just about to say. Except for if I could make the same combos in 40K as I made in 3.5, you're like, I shoot a guy, your army dies. Why? Well, let me give you these 11 books that I'm going to stack together. 3 of them are psionic abilities. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. All right, so onto the update. So now that we've kind of hoped the everything coming out at once into existence, why don't we just run down faction by faction, just starting at the top and working our way to the bottom?
Can do.
Anything you want to see. So for Custodes, anything you want to see?
Flavorful detachments?
Flavorful detachments, I get you, but we're just looking at their points.
I know, right? But there's no way I'm not throwing shade at this because, like, what was the Custodes guy on Xanax or something? Cow book, orc book, super exciting, tons of fun stuff. And then the dude in charge of Custodes went, "Hey guys, I'll write the Custodes book. I got it." It's not even like I'm not even looking at the power level of it. It's just the fun factor is like Andy said, don't compare paint drawing is pissed off that you compared the Custode book to it. But
it's not even, I don't even think it's like a points thing. You look at it, it just looks tedious to play.
Yeah. There's just no flavor.
I agree on Lord Amnesia. I want to see the actual codex, the whole thing. Citadel Journal, by the way, was the answer to your question, Corey. So
anything you want to see changed in Custodes, point-wise?
Points-wise, I think they just need to have more dudes. If they're not going to give them all their juice, they need to have more guys. I would, you know what I'd like to see? Make the girls go down a lot, because the girls have the combinations could be very powerful if you could put enough girls on the board.
My thing on that was I am legitimately awaiting the points update for this, because if they use the points that's in that book, you're effectively eliminating a codex from getting played in tournaments.
I said, please don't just make it more golden bodies on the table. I mean, if you're going to drop points somewhere, do it on some of the specialer units, because I don't want to play against 70 Custodes.
Yeah, it feels like you're just doing that Dark Angels Terminator list, you know what I mean? Which was super boring also. I don't know, it's just, you want more of the, I don't know. I just think that they need more rules, to be honest with you. I'd like to see more, some basic dudes possibly having different, I'd like to see sweep attacks in your Custodes. Custodes are just like Bonkersville in the stories. Holy shit, are they nuts. So I'd like to see more individual abilities for their points, I guess. It's just a hard army to balance.
Dive back.
Stooping dive is amazing.
I want to be able to charge out of rapid ingress.
Not gonna lie, I don't want to see that, but
we're getting all the big guys going to publicize 40K. Give me the next one. I don't want to go into Custodes because I think Custodes has more stuff than I want to. We know.
Right, so we didn't really cover sisters, right? So what do we want to see in sisters?
Them to leave them the hell alone.
I just think they need to. Think they need to change two things, and it's minor changes, and it's probably me just being me. I think the Arcos need to go up about 10 points for a unit, for the full unit. And I think you need to bring the immolator down to like 105 points, just to make it so it's.
I mean, it's $110. You could just. I think it's too expensive. If I was going to change anything, I'd bring the immolator down. But like that, Sisters has been in a great spot win rate wise and felt play on the board wise, and I just don't like dicking around with armies that are where you want them to be already. So that's kind of where I'm at.
When you start breaking Sisters down by mission and deployment and player skill, you see that they're performing kind of consistently across the board. Don't mess with that.
Yeah, it's just if you have something that's already where you want it, why fuck around with it? You know what I mean?
That's fair response. So
if you're gonna poke at anything, poke at the fact that they get like 24 miracle dice a game.
I just let them have it. Like again, everybody's getting more toys, more power, more everything, except for Custodes. Cough, cough. Sorry, but. I would just leave them where they are right now. You know what I mean? There's no point in trying to rein people in while everybody's getting new toys. So, and they're already at your sweet spot. So I just don't like, because it's all the, interactions that happen with each other. So everybody's getting a points down. This is getting points up. This is getting a new codex. You know what I mean? Like, don't get lost in the shuffle where you're fixing a problem that doesn't exist.
No, that's fair. The only thing I want to see is I just want to see the immolator go down. I'd like to see Arcos go up a little bit, but that's just maybe it's just a me thing. But
and it could be, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? I just in some other stuff might need a little bit of fine tuning, but my problem is if something's where you want it at, let it be a little bit off on some of the points. Yeah.
All right. So AdMech. This is the one where I was I think they need to. Castellan Robot needs to drop 60 points for the unit of two. I think they're just stupidly overcosted for what they do. You built a detachment to try and go around them, make them playable, bring them down to a level where they'll see the table. And I think the Scorpex Disintegrator needs to go down about 40 points. And
it's wildly overcosted.
And if you want to stretch and say, hey, fix a detachment, fix the cohort Cybernetica, make those Castellans that you've dropped a ton in points battle line.
I mean, come on, man. In the detachments, if you're not running Skitarii, I guess all of them kind of have nothing. So for me, for AdMech, I would leave all the little guys alone and I would change robots. I'd probably change most of the mech stuff. I think all of it's slightly overcosted. For what it does compared to what other people are getting, you're just not getting that much bang for your buck because you're looking at output per point. And while the Horde AdMech is a viable army, it costs $1 million, but like Breachers are wildly overcosted. I'm sorry. Those guys have great output, but like when you're looking at all the modern type units, point per output, Breachers are really good. They're just too expensive.
Yep. And we look at points problems, you look at Tyranids and go, that's probably a points problem army. Is AdMech a points problem army or is that a book problem?
It's both.
It's a little bit of both, but I think the Skitarii cohort could be fine if other stuff was cheaper. If their transport was down, if the disintegrator was down in points, I think they'd be better.
Yeah, I'm gonna give props out to Sarapata. Mike Sarapata crushed with it over the weekend. He went 4-1 and did well. I think you can throw tomatoes at me all you want. I think that book's wildly better than people think it is. It's just that testing around with it, all their real world buying the units costs so much that it's hard to find the magic sauce. You know what I mean? And I think it's probably way better into teams than it is into singles, because when you fight something that does have the ability to pick up a lot of the chickens and stuff like that, you end up getting bad trades because their stuff's slightly too expensive. I don't think AdMech's that far out. I think the detachment rules are kind of meh. And I think that the mechanized part of the army and the breachers are just too expensive. I think that you leave the Vanguard, you leave the Rangers, you leave everybody on foot. The characters are probably fine too. And you bring the vehicles down. And then you basically end up having one more unit of stuff. And a lot of times that makes just a big difference. You know what I mean? If you have one more damaging unit in your army, you have 2 breachers instead of 1, you have more chicken walkers. That's what I would do with AdMech. Again, it's the problem is it's an army that's hard to workshop with if you're not willing to just 3D print everything, because it's just so goddamn expensive. You know what I mean? You're not going to go, hey, I took 18 Dragoons. And you're like, I didn't like them. You're like, cool, I guess I won't eat this week. You know, like, so.
Or the month.
Yeah. It's just so expensive. So I think that they're better than people say. I was talking about this with Mike on this. I think that this army is legit. I think that the Horde's legit. There's stuff in AdMech that's really good. I just think that they have, it's not even bad detachment rolls. They just have like almost non-existent detachment rolls. And I think that the mech stuff should be just cheaper.
Yep. All right. So moving
Get
on.
the basic list to drop about 80 points. I think we'd be okay.
Yeah.
Eldari. What's your thoughts on Eldari?
Anything that's not an aspect warrior.
I mean, here's the thing. I have a place in my heart, of course, for Eldari, so it's hard for me on that one. But Eldari are finally playing an actual game with Eldar. You know what I mean? So I don't have a real answer for this, because that army was in Bullshitville for 90% of 10th edition release, and now it's actually playing like the Codex. A couple units are trash fires, and I think that you probably just leave them as trash fires, because the community will literally show up in England with pitchforks and burn the place down if you buff Eldari back up.
I think it's one of those armies where you have to do the politically correct thing and just let it go.
I think the only 2 units that really need like changes are Striking Scorpions and Howling Banshees. I just think they're both overcosted.
Well, Howling Banshees are just bad. So I mean, like, if I could take free Howling Banshees, I would be like, eh.
They're also 80 points for 5 of them. If they were like 60 to 65 points, I think they'd be fine. I think they might see places in armies. Same with Striking Scorpions. I think in that point range, they'd be a little bit better off.
Riley's got a good one on this. He just goes, give Banshees Lance. I mean, that would make them playable. Right now, they just can't wound anything. Yeah, I mean.
There's a couple of the Syracuse Eldar disciples in the chat, and they've all been hitting me all week. Please don't let us get nerfed anymore. And I kind of agree with that, too. I don't think. Let Eldar sit where it is.
They finally are where they should have been the whole time. They're a very good army that's very difficult to play with lots of moving parts, which is Eldari. They should be a powerful army that requires a lot of fast movement skills, decisions to be made. And that's one of the reasons I love Eldari. I love Eldar. But the thing is they're paying for the sins of the father on that. Everybody was like, Eldar was too ridiculous. And they were for a long time. They are now in a fine spot. They should just be kind of left alone. Like I said, don't nerf them, but also... or don't buff anything either. Just let the units that are bad be bad, and just let the army play. Because there's tons of... We had multiple Eldars at the team tournament over the weekend, and they were all wildly different from each other. And that's what Eldar should be. Like, a lot of different decisions. It's a good book. It should be played. The thing is that you can't... I don't want them to be nerfed anymore, but I don't want them to be any of the... Don't unlock anything. Just let them be.
Yep. So we'll move on to Black Templar. This is where I go, any vehicle that says Black Templar at the front of it should go up 10 points.
Anything that says Black Templar, make them pay for the multi-melta.
I mean, they are not getting a free one, so.
10 points more for all the Black Templar vehicles. If it says Black Templar, Gladiator, whatever at the front of it, 10 points more.
The problem is right now is if you mess around with Black Templar, Crusader's already not doing as well. Like the Gladius and Ironstorm are doing 1 billion times better.
Yeah. That's why you just hit the tanks.
You also got the issue where
10
Black Templar performs.
They have to take a Tech Marine out of the army.
Black Templar performs really well in the hands of good players. It performs really well in certain missions and certain deployments, and then falls off the face of the earth on some of the other ones.
Yeah.
So you don't want to poke it too hard, and so that even on their good missions they can't play anymore. So
yeah, and that's what I'm worried about, because Black Templars have been very consistent, winning at 52 to 54% since the update. And again, I don't like messing with armies that are just where the hell you want them to be. So yeah, I could see a little bit of an extra on the vehicles because they are getting the multi-melta. So I agree on that. But again, I'm just so wary of touching shit that's kind of where you want it to be, and it's playing the way.
I mean, again, I don't think that the 10 extra points, you're talking, 5 to 6 vehicles in an army on average, is that huge of a hit. It means you got to change up one unit. I don't think that's a terrible thing to hit them with.
Also,
honestly, I think there's only one thing in the game right now that I want to hit with a shovel until it's dead.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. I know what that is.
And Mike, we like all your stupid big tanks, buddy. So.
Absolutely love tanks. I hate painting them, but I love playing them. So Blood Angels, this is the one where it's like there's only really a couple things that I think need updating for them. Their detachment got better. That's very obvious. I just think Sanguinary Guard need to come down in points.
Yes, they're bulker. The Blood Angels army that you're seeing, I love seeing all the Death Company. They feel like they play like Death Company right now for the first time in 10th edition. But Sanguinary Guard are on everybody's shelves, man. Unless you have the most beautiful painted Sanguinary Guard ever, there is no chance you're putting those bad boys on the board.
Corbulo's overcosted.
Corbulo for life.
So Chaos Demons. This is the one where I got to say that I think several of their troops are overcosted.
The troops are wildly overcosted.
It's too expensive. And I think all the Slaanesh Chariots are way too overpriced.
There are entire pantheons that are like basically unplayable.
It's the weird thing that everything battle line is pretty meh. You can go with horrors because they split. You can get value out of that. So it is hard to point them. But like Bloodletters and Daemonettes, you can make that one Plague Bearer unit if you give it the upgrade. Excuse me. But they need to be cheaper. I think that they did a really good job at the data slate, the last update, of taking all of the cost for the big guys down, because they were just wildly unplayable before. But like 230 for Great and Clean Ones, Rodriguez and stuff like that, Lord of Change, I think all of those became point playable. We had Kyle went 5-0 with Demons over the weekend because they took all the points down. So you have so much more stuff. You're able to play the game. I think Demons are in a much better place. If anything, they could use a couple point decreases and just touch a few units that are probably still a little bit too much, but I wouldn't screw around with them. They're just now starting to be played, because you remember before the data slate, Demons were in Trashville. They weren't even getting played.
Yeah.
Well, if you got to worry about the allies rule.
True,
but I think if you just bring a couple of their battle line units down, they might see more play. You might see some of their stuff in Chaos Space Marines at that point.
That's again, I think if you make the battle line troops, playable, then you've basically undone the nerf you did to them last patch, where Chaos Space Marines couldn't take the spam anymore. So if you're going to tell me that Chaos Space Marines don't get buffs in this status slate, then I say the Demons should probably get them.
They just need to be harsher on things that can take buffs, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? Like, you should have to, it should just be like Yanara used to be, when you used to have to pay more points for things outside of your codex. You know what I mean? So if you want Demons, they cost, you have points for Demons in Demons, and you have points for Demons in Chaos or Knights or whatever. You know what I mean? And it's just not that hard. You just put them in the data sheet, or in the data sheet for them.
Down to those Chaos Space Marines at this point. In my opinion, undo all the point changes you did in the last thing. All the other data slate stuff fixed them. The points were unnecessary.
You just don't want them where they were. They were Bonkersville.
And the Bonkersville was the upgrades, the stuff they fixed in the data slate, the stratagems. I think they could fix the points on everything but the Chaos Lord, and it'd be perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Then I'm perfectly fine burying Demons then.
It also, CSM, I don't think they need to be, I'm never a big fan of doing big changes to something right before they get a codex too. So, meh.
So then we move on to Dark Angels. I think Dark Angels, really, the Lion is just so stupidly overcosted.
He's Bonkersville overcosted.
Make his beautifully gorgeous model playable. I'd love to see him on a tabletop at some point in time.
Yeah.
The lion went into his woods and emerged from the fog in Frownsville. So
I mean, if a great unclean one's 230 points, can the lion be somewhere in that ballpark? Please.
Also, I need middle-aged lion in my life. He just looks like he's seen some shit. He's on his second divorce. Shit. he's moving to a new condo.
There's that MMA clip of the old guy with the gray beard beating up on the two other MMA guys. I need that lion in my life.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
It's just, I think that the Dark Angels line needs to go down a little bit. They didn't give them enough special rules to give them all of those points. Those points were like from a different time, man. It feels like they were trying to, point down Dark Angels from 9th edition almost. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make any sense to me. You should be able to field way more shit in that army. And especially, Dark Angels are the ones leading, and this is me being a lore idiot again, but like Dark Angels are leading the continuation of the story. With the line coming back, you're never even going to see the line on the table right now. And it just doesn't look like a Dark Angels army.
If Rain should be asking Azrael who his dad is.
Yeah, these are two. Clint and Corey have great comments on this. GW looked at DA players and then to Custodes and said, "Hold my beer." Corey's got Horace Walk is the Corvette of the 41st Millennium.
All right, so after Dark Angels, we move on to the Death Guard, who, in my opinion, I think you leave them the hell alone. They're fine with it.
I swear I will put up a ring of fire around. Death Guard finally found themselves. Leave that goddamn codex alone. Go away. Go on, get off the porch. Just no.
Go on, get.
It's that those guys are doing fine. That is a super flavorful army. It is good. It has strengths. It has weaknesses, as a codex should.
Yep. Let
it alone.
And then we move on to one of the redheaded stepchildren of the Space Marines, the Death Watch.
You need a whole heap of stuff to fix that. They were good when everything first came out. They just need points and some more detachment stuff, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't even know how to fix them.
I think all the kill teams need to drop by like 15 to 20%.
Oh yeah,
if it says kill team at the end of it, it needs to go down in points.
They're the Carolina Panthers of factions.
That is very true. But like,
there's not enough draft capital to fix them in one balance up to.
Ooh, hold on. I know the saltiest person here. Still Frosty. I think they could make Outriders free and people wouldn't take them because they give up kill points and take up too much space.
Probably not wrong in that aspect.
Oh man.
Without a doubt.
To be honest with you, for kill team, for Death Watch, I don't know. They need some serious changes to the points on kill teams, but they need something for them. I mean, their detachment's kind of meh. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I don't.
At the risk of driving us off topic, what would you think about adding cavalry to the tank shock stratagem?
I think that monsters and tanks should have that. I don't know. You should have to be so big to ride this ride. So definitely I can't get on, but
yeah. So as we move on from Death Watch, we have to hop up to Drukhari, who I think are okay now.
Drukhari, they did a fantastic job with taking them from 0 to hero. They're not OP even remotely. It's 100% a playable army in teams and singles. I think that they're fine. I think they're fine. I've played with Drukhari. I think they're in a decent spot.
Yeah. All right. So after Drukhari, we have Genestealer Cult, who have definitely dropped off from their heyday. But I think they're at that point where maybe a light touch on a unit, maybe two, but I can't put my finger on it.
It's so tough on them because of the fact that you're talking about an army with big units and stuff like that. So even small touches can bring huge changes on that. I think that they probably need a little bit of juice, but I think that if you put too many points off, if you point buff them too much, there'll be a problem. You know what I mean? Because their army's better than people say. When you see people that love that army, they're specialists with that army, play the army, they still do super well. You got to think of the weeks that GSC just randomly won at 59% and shit like that. Yep. It's a big deal.
I do have some concerns that if Orc Horde starts taking over, that you're going to see Genestealer Cult just get lost in the shuffle because of it.
I could see that. They do have so many shots, you know what I mean? And they have so many buffs. I don't even think they need any rules changes, because they already nerfed them down with they don't auto come back and they have to come back, farther away and whatnot. But I think that they could probably use another unit. I wouldn't want to see too much more, because the people forget, man, that volume of fire with crossfire and everything is pretty bonkers.
Yeah.
I just question when you've got an army that plays counter to the meta and it still can't find a home.
Yeah, I mean, you have a point there. So I'm not 100%. I do think that they need a little bit of juice, but I'm very fearful. Again, anytime an army like that you give too many buffs to, all of a sudden it becomes oppressive.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I'm all for bearing it, but...
So then we move on from GSE to Grey Knights, which I'm going to let Zoobs go first on this one, because I want to hear from him.
First you stab it, then you burn it, then you kick it in the nads, and then you rejoice. It's the 6 Dread Knights, the 2 Land Raiders that kill it dead, destroy it completely.
Kill it dead.
The way you do that is you have to turn to their Terminators and bring the points down.
I still think the one thing that's going to get touched is the Dread Knights. I think they're 2 points efficient with their buffs that they got.
They were bad before it.
They weren't bad. They just didn't do enough, and the little bit of buff they got was enough that made them too efficient.
I did just play Grey Knights twice in the team tournament on wide open boards, and it wasn't a feel great moment. So
yeah,
I managed to sneak those out, but man, I don't know. They have the best mechanics in the game. The uppy downies is so good. Plus miss is probably one of the best stratagems in the entire game. Whew.
I got cornered by Mr. Horton after a recent event where he just dumped on me for about an hour about how much he couldn't stand that list.
Oh, I don't like that list. I remember 5th edition, so therefore I have this hatred of Grey Knights. Thank you, Matt Ward. But it's one of those things of that list with the 6 Dread Knights is just oppressive, and it can be just super annoying to play against. In particular, in a very good player's hands, it was very tough to deal with. And on WTC or GW boards, it's tough, and you cannot screen that out enough for the amount of movement that it has.
Well, especially later in the game, because they started picking up turns 3, 4, 5s when that army actually gets steam. Turns 1 and 2, it feels like a regular army. And then later in the game, when you no longer have your trash units and they're all up in your butt. So I don't know. They have mechanics. To be honest with you, they have the mechanics that I think the Custodes should have in one of their detachments. So uppy down.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that we're not talking about that with Custodes. I thought for sure we would have a golden light detachment.
Yep. 100%. And I think that would be an amazing detachment. It would give them a lot of flavor too. You know what I mean? And how you play. I just don't want to see. Grey Knights were not played very much, and then now you're seeing a specific list. I would say that you bring the Terminators down. I wouldn't mind seeing like Silver Tide come again.
Yeah, that I'd be much more happier with Silver Tide over those Dread Knights.
I have a paladin shaped hole in my heart, so
Paladins flamed me so much over the weekend, it made me sad.
But I think this is an army where the rules are so good for the army that we're always going to be bouncing back and forth between and.
Yeah, they're strong. They've got great detachment rules plus good strats. 100% Playmaker. Silvertide is the coolest version of GK. Yep. It also is more fluffy.
As we move on, we're going to go to Imperial Agents. We know they're getting a book soon.
It's just whatever. I'm passing over this.
No, it is not whatever. Warhounds should be 1,000 points so I can bring them to teams events.
My bad.
Excuse me, 950 points so I can fit an HQ in.
Something I think as a faction on their own, they're not playable. but as allies, some of them are fine. Some of them, I just think, need some thought to put into on their point costs, just so there's not a 40-point unit running around in a backfield that every Imperium army can take. I think that's...
Corey has a good thing on the wall here. He goes, I love how the Changeling was in too many lists and now effectively can't be brought as an ally, but the Calidus is vastly superior, and it is. And in every Imperial list. So
yeah, for 90 points, that thing is ridiculous. If it was 125, you might not see it in every list. I would love to see a Legion of the Damned unit still frosty.
He should, because he's got every one of his Marine armies is
oh, I know.
Legion of the Damned.
If you haven't seen his In the Arms of an Angel's display case, it's fantastic.
I just assumed it would be Kroot with Space Marines tied to their backs.
You do remember that you used to be able to put a Tau Commander in your Marine list so you could just ignore cover. That was fantastic. And you could declare an orbital bombardment.
We're going to roll to the Imperial Knights.
We already said this. We were talking about, just roll back the nerfs. Towering's already out. Just give them back Bondsman, roll back their points. Good to go. See you later.
Even though they won a 50-man event this last weekend?
Don't care.
I agree with that one. All right, so Leagues of Votann,
Outriders. Legion of the Damned.
$2 super chat from Lyle Dixon. Legion of the Damned, but only Outriders. The end of that super chat should say, screw you, Brandon.
Absolutely. So Leagues of Votann is what's the fix there? For me, it's they need a minor point tweaks, but I don't think it's anything terrible. I just think they need more units to be able.
They just need more. They need their codex, to be honest with you. They just need a little bit more stuff. The thing is that I think League. I'm just calling it Votann because apparently I can't say leagues now. Votann doesn't have a large enough array of units to make it so that anytime you screw with anything, it doesn't have a huge impact because they only have a couple sheets. I think that they're semi-fine right now. They're close. They just need more. They need more options, period. So you're not going to get that until you get some sort of book where they have a couple more data sheets.
I think it's diplomatic.
Does their kill team
and not more trash?
Does their kill team have 40k rules? Because they have a kill team box set, but I don't remember seeing 40k rules for it.
I agree.
Somebody correct me if I'm wrong.
I do agree on the wall on this. They probably do need 6-inch more on the ranges. Because you can just range them out. You can make them go to places they don't want to be.
They need a Felix and Go Trek.
They still have the best bikes in the game. They're crazy.
Yeah.
Pioneers are nuts.
All right, so after Leagues of Votann, we move into Necrons, which I think Necrons only need a very, very, very light touch, and that's the Satans. They need a little points increase, maybe 15 to 20 points on them, and then I think they're fine.
I agree, because they've been the meta's been really figuring them out. You've been seeing that in their win rates and stuff. They still are winning at the top tables really well. I think they're a really strong army. I don't think they need a ton though, because the win rate went down significantly, and we're getting more power in the game with the codexes and stuff, and we're going to see that continue on.
And they're looking at multiple detachments that are winning. I apologize for not being more familiar with the list they're using, but is there much diversity between the lists?
Yeah. The difference between Canoptic Court and the Hypercrypt is fairly big. The nerf...
other than the Satan presence?
The Hypercrypt brings a shit ton of Catan, but it also is more of a shooting army, while Canoptic is looking to kind of grind out their playstyle.
Yep.
So... their counter. Yeah, we'll see. To be honest with you, I'd rather always err on the side of keeping an army just a little bit too powerful than nerfing them into unplayable. So that's just my opinion on that completely.
And we're in a fun place where a little too powerful is actually only just a little too powerful.
Yep. And then we fall to Orcs, where I think Orcs is wait for the books to shake out. let's not change anything.
You have nothing to change yet. They haven't had any games with the book's not even out. You know what I mean?
So
Stompers should be mandatory.
From there, I hate them. Marines. So after Orcs, we go to Space Marines.
Give me different books so I don't have to do this. The Space Marine book encompasses too much shit. I'm sorry, but it just does.
Can we just take some of these units that haven't seen a table this edition and just bring their points down to where you might consider bringing them? Because I'm pretty sure if Reavers were 65 points, you'd be like, oh, I'm going to take some Reavers.
Only if you model them specifically like Batman.
Perfectly fine with modeling them like Batman. I don't care. They have giant grappling hooks. Please make a 5-man unit count as much as a scout unit, so there's a question on which one you're going to take.
I think they need to seriously look at restricting some of the core books from the specialized chapters.
Yes, give them their own stuff. You know what I mean? If you have a book, don't make them supplements. Don't make, when you go into Space Wolves and Blood Angels and Dark Angels, stop making them supplements and make them their own book. Then you can have strong rules, restrict certain units if they didn't have them in the first place, or make them more expensive. And you can balance book for book as opposed to going, well, I've got this giant book that I have these side books for that they can all utilize their own shit. That's when it becomes really hard to balance. You know, you can come up with really cool rules if they can't just abuse them out of the main book. Your book should be in my opinion, your book should be, besides the main rule book, it should be just usable on its own.
We need to take the supplement books, and their specialized unit needs to be replacements for Codex compliant books, not in addition to.
Fair. That's actually a good call. Unfortunately, that's not what they've set up with this edition at the moment.
KR does have a point. I'm always going to hope for the best, because KR goes, big question is, when you're done, is what will GW actually do? This is way harder to gauge. They base shit on magic win rates in the last game they saw, which is not wrong. They do battle reports and shit like that.
I crawled out from under a rock once and developed the title of the saltiest person on the planet. And I'll admit, I think 10th came in like a bamboo war up the Ganges. But I'm pretty content with the state right now. So I'm willing to give Games Workshop a little bit of leeway and say, I think it'll be okay.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be all right.
Yep. All right. So after Space Marines, which again, that's one of those books that's hard to manage. Space Wolf specific units. Is there anything that needs fixing there?
Yeah, their detachment.
Yeah, the detachment, we can just agree that the detachment's awful. So looking at just, that should be just pick one of these each turn. You can only use each one once kind of thing.
It just make it the saga stuff, but you got to have something for it in the beginning in the first place. They should have an entry level thing and then a completion level thing. It would make it, because you'd actually have an ability. And they should be badass. If you have to literally go out and have your characters kill shit, the thing that you get shouldn't be another chapter's starting power. You know what I mean?
I completely agree with that one.
And the thing,
I love Thunderwolves, but I heard the phrase wolf jail about 4,000 times at a 12-man event. So
I'm fine with them. It's not, they play well. Changing the detachment, their points are fine until you separate those armies from the main book. It's just hard to do anything else with them, because you could do some bonkers shit if you made these books solo. You know what I mean? But they have to go with all the other things. Character
and
units,
bite
100%.
the bullet and change their color schemes to maize and blue.
Oh God. Boo.
Space Wolverines. They'd win more, Brad. I mean, just look at the facts.
You know what?
All right, so as we move on, we go to Thousand Suns, which I think is please don't touch them. They're fine. That's my opinion. I think they're capable of winning big events.
Oh, 100%. Thousand Suns probably have the most damage in the game, but they also are sitting on top of Jenga stack where that power can go away real quick. So I like where they're at. They're super powerful, but also they can immediately lose a ton.
All right.
I think the best armies are the armies that you feel like it takes you 6 months to learn, and there's that sense of accomplishment. And I think you can get that out of Thousand Suns right now.
Agreed.
So then we move on to Tyranids, which is my jam. Please lower all the monsters by about 20%.
You have monsters that are fucking wildly unplayable. I'm sorry.
Can you explain to me why the monster with a 4-up invul save is cheaper than the monster without a 4-up invul save?
Dude,
I should say is more expensive.
The Trigun, is there anything more overpriced than the Trigun?
The Norn Assimilator.
I forgot he existed, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, like, we can get into pricing on them. I could get really specific, but like just lower their points.
I'm gonna go hard on this. Lord Amnesia
if something has the stat line that's lower than the Satan and the Satan costs less points, then maybe this monster should be in the same ballpark as the cost of a Satan, not 100 points more.
You got to go to the wall. Read that one, Horton. Just read it out loud.
Give Crusher Stampede Monster Shock. Please, by all means, make that a thing.
I don't understand why you don't. Like, with the units that it literally, when they show the animations, they're picking up tanks and throwing them soccer style. No tank shock, huh? Okay.
Yep.
I think Wraith Knights cleansed the palate of Crusher Stampede. We can now bring it back.
100%.
But if we're going to do all this good stuff for Tyranids, I think we have to take a look at Gargoyles.
True story.
Gargoyles are good. I think their point increase is pretty close to where they should be.
They're so bonkers. If I was playing Tyranids, I'd be bringing 50 of them.
Point per model. I wouldn't be opposed to them going up 10 points for a unit. I'd be perfectly fine with that. But please just take things like the Psychophage, which is in everybody's Leviathan box set. Every Tyranid player owns at least 2 of them. Make them 100 points. Make them see a table. At 100 points,
I don't even know what that model looks like. It's been shitty for the entire time.
Yeah, since it came out, it's been terrible. The Screamer Killer, we lowered its points a shit ton. You should try it out. And everybody went, it's still not very good. It's too expensive. Again, when you have something priced at the same point as a Gladiator tank that doesn't shoot like a Gladiator tank and is just as tough, but has to get there to do the damage, it's got to be cheaper.
All I'm saying is make the Toxicrin 75 points so you're forced to play it and figure out how the hell you're going to move it around.
Jesus Christ. You got to
figure out how to make it so that Vanguard doesn't bounce off of Sentinels.
Also, yes.
Yeah, the Von Rin Leapers. I assaulted a Sentinel and went, 6 of them couldn't kill it. Yay! But no, I just think it's monster points. The Hive Tyrants are overcosted. It's just almost every monster is overcosted. I think the only ones that are probably a point appropriate is the Carnifex. They're fine.
Exocrin's probably where it should be. But everything else could go down.
So then we're at Tau. We got to get the full book and data.
We have no idea what the points are. I can't fix. You can't even think about them until you realize that you know what the real points are.
Yeah, and then World Eaters is the one where I want to hear people's opinion on this. A lot of people think they got beat into the ground. I think they're still fine.
Those people are high. That army's fine. It just is.
Another great army if you're willing to learn its ins and outs.
Yeah, it's just it's been doing fine. It got left by a lot of people. It doesn't have the same first turn consistency without favored, where you get to reroll each time. But like the army's been doing super well. It's been doing really well in teams. Yeah, I mean, it's just the army's fine. It just doesn't have the ridiculousness of auto first turning people like it used to.
All right, so now
we're happy that your shirtless blenders are good.
Yes.
So now we're on to our hopes for the missions. And this one I can go very simple. Please give us a couple more missions that have kill.
Or just interact.
Did I map through Astra Militarum?
Yeah. No, we're not talking about it. You wanted to talk about Astra Militarum?
We didn't skip them.
I did intentionally skip them for Zuber, just so he could ran at the end.
You're not wrong.
Cut 100 points off the Marauder Destroyer. We'll be happy camper.
Also, is there any reason the Manicore just keeps getting buffed up? It's going to be like 100,000 points. Like, hey, we're
180 now or something crazy like that.
There's just no reliable damage in that book, and eventually the Manicore is just going to kill the whole list.
Yeah, I think it's one of those books that they could probably roll back a few of the nerfs that they gave them that seemed not needed to the indirect fire, and they'd probably be fine, but you don't want to do too much to it.
I mean, it's pretty goddamn good right now, to be perfectly honest with you. They need some a couple point decreases, probably, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but I think overall the index is okay.
It's playable. Field ordnance batteries are the worst thing in the game, but other than that,
mission wise.
Oh, and kill support platforms. They shouldn't exist.
I mean, do they even still exist? How did those not get legends?
No idea.
They should be.
So, missions wise, I would like to see just more. To be honest, I'd like to see more interactive missions. But the biggest thing, and Amnesia has it off the thing, man, you have to be able to toss shit that you just can't be scored on turn one. And or right now, bring it down. If your opponent doesn't have a monster vehicle, you just don't get to chuck it. Like, what the fuck is that? You know what I mean? It's not my fault you don't have it. I don't even auto score it. You know what I mean? Like you used to back in the day. So like, if you can't score it, or if it's turn one, capture enemy outpost, go pound sand. That's a tornado of dicks. You know what I mean? You can't score that.
That should be shuffle it back into your deck, draw a new one. On turn one, if you draw this card,
yeah,
shuffle it back in, draw a new card.
I would like to see just more stuff. You have to not even just kill. I think you should have to interact with people.
Yeah.
I mean, because you got to figure that if we get a new mission thing, I mean, it would be nice to see just like, hey, you have to make a charge. You have to be in your opponent. More things that are behind enemy lines-esque, you know what I mean? And more engage. I'd like to see them change the fixed a little bit because everybody takes the same shit all the time. So some of them are obviously wildly easier to score than others.
I would like to see fixed go away. I know that's pretty controversial. I would love to see it go away. I wouldn't
mind that either. It's just, you know what I mean? It's just, hey, are you taking, obviously there's times that the people bring it down, assassinate type thing, which are more interactive, but like you just do teleport behind or teleport.
I like Riley's hot take here, by the way. Don't score secondaries turn one, restructure scoring to work turns 2 through 5.
I mean, that's how primary works. You know what I mean? I'd be fine with that too.
Yep.
It's such if you get real nerdy on some of the stats, and you look at some of these armies that are like, they pull 30% on some with some secondaries, and then they pull 70% on others. If you go too crazy, I think you're just going to see some armies really suffer from it.
Yeah, I mean, the slower armies are always going to have a little bit of a harder time period, to be perfectly honest with you. But like, I don't want to go back to the days when we did when you kept characters alive and you went to the middle. You know what I mean? I scored 15 points on all.
I don't want numbered objectives to come back, right? That's not something I want to see, where it's like, oh, you have to capture objective 2. Well, that happens to be the objective in your opponent's deployment zone. I don't want to see that come back, but I would like to see some more interactive ones. I do like the idea of complete a charge for 2 points, complete 2 charges for 4. That'd be kind of neat.
I mean, do you guys...
Something where it's not a huge scorer, but it's something you can pull off.
What did you guys think about the old one where you had faction-specific secondaries? They were wildly disparate. You had a dichotomy of like super good ones and super bad ones. Do you think they would just fuck it up again? I mean, it's hard to make them all good.
I mean, here's the thing. You have to make 2 for each faction that you shuffle into the deck. Right? That would be the only way I could see it. And they can't be fixed. They have to be shuffled in. And they would just have to do that.
I did like mission-specific secondaries. Even if you don't do or faction-specific, I enjoyed mission-specific. Because it made...
that I don't mind that. But the faction-specific, you almost have to be flavorful, you almost have to make the army good at scoring it. And that gets you towards, I'm playing Sisters, I scored 97 points, let's shake hands now.
Yeah, true story. I mean, fuck, we could go back to Necron days when you're like, hey, it's turn 3, you didn't table me, I got 100.
I would like to see a better way of recycling secondaries. And maybe take some of these characters that are I get free stratagems and change it to I can draw an extra secondary.
I would be fine with a strat that was a battle tactic of choose this secondary, like a one-time use. Choose this. You can take one of the secondary cards, and it doesn't count towards your total, so you can hold it until you score it.
It'd be nice if you had war gear that could also manipulate, like, once a game you can draw 3, or you can recycle 1 and stuff like that, and you just pay for it. That would help a lot.
Even a strat where, an objective you didn't score this turn, you may attempt to score this turn.
And the thing is I wouldn't mind just not discarding and just shuffling back sometimes if you had an ability for that. Because sometimes you want those in there. You know what I mean? If you draw behind enemy lines and bring it down on turn 1 and your opponent just hides, you know what I mean? It would be nice to be able to just shuffle those back in and maybe make them once a game abilities. You know what I mean? Just like the recycling of secondary is right now. I wouldn't mind just having a once a game for free. Just you can only do it once. Just take whatever the 2 secondaries are and reshuffle them back in. Because I'd love to bring it down on turn 3 or 4. You know what I mean?
Yep. I wish they set a poet for this because I'm not quite sure how to frame it. But I lost it. Never mind.
One of the things I would like to see is I would love to see some 6 objective missions, without a doubt. The going down to 4 objective mission thrown out.
Oh God, yeah. I hit corn demons on that last week and it was miserable.
It just makes it so basic, and you it's hard to just have tactics on that.
And servo skulls need to just burn in a hot fire.
Is that even a mission? Come on, does anybody play that?
If you play at a GW event, yes.
Yeah, I think that there's what maybe 2, possibly 3 that are just no one's happy when they see them. So that would be a priority for me. But I think we're at a point where the secondaries are almost more important than the data slates, and I don't think that's a bad thing.
Oh, 100%. I agree on that. Because the mission pack affects everyone. So it's 100%
it's so much easier to balance. What did you say, Horton? The like 36 million rules interactions when the data slates are not dominant.
Yeah, I mean, you can, for the deck, the mission decks, you can balance that a lot better than you can balance all the data slate interactions that can happen, because it's an infinite number. I mean, in all honesty, of what can happen in a game. We actually did the math, and it was like 200 and some odd thousand miscellaneous rules interactions that could happen, and that was just the tip of the iceberg. And I think if you take the secondary deck and the missions, and I'm not going to say trim the number of missions down, but tighten them up and make them a little bit better. Like, you could take servo skulls, and instead of saying, hey, you can move these objectives, just players roll a die and moves that many inches to the left.
Yeah.
Roll a die and moves that many inches to the right.
I don't need that in my life.
Just something. I mean, you could do a little better with it. If you want moved objectives.
You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the original relic rules, and I'm going to swap hands with it like 6 times and kill a unit. Just keep picking it up and slinging it forward.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different style missions you could do. There's a lot of, secondaries you could add to the game of, like, hey, if your opponent has a psyker and you kill it, it's X number of points. If they don't have a psyker and you kill a battle line unit, it's X number of points. And if they have neither, score 2 points or 4 points or whatever. There's things they could throw in to make it a little more interactive, or to have you have a little different of a tactical choice at one point in time in the game.
I know that you know that I know, so clearly I cannot pick that.
Yeah.
So, something not so much for discussion, but is there room in this game for a deck building aspect?
Yes.
Yeah, there is.
There's also room for a sideboard with actual models, but that's a different thing also.
Yeah, if you said there was a 250 point sideboard that you could walk up to the board and you could change your army 250 points out, 250 points in.
Hold on. 58 minutes in. Hey, if you could, like and subscribe, because it really helps out. I definitely thought of that myself and did not see Kiara say it as usual. Bring back game.
We started this and I said to myself, I'm going to remind Brad. I'm going to get in there. Nope.
Yeah, Brian, I would love to get to discard some of the objectives you don't want. Yeah, making a deck zoobs would be, I would prefer that. I think we used to be able to do that in especially in some of the team events.
It'd be nice if there was, let's just say, because it's a 16 card deck right now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, if we could take some out, I would like to see a couple more added. Then you take them out. If there was
24 options, you get to pick 16. Yeah, that would be interesting.
100%.
Oh, and you could do it like Star Wars Armada, where the cards only come in specific box sets. Oh.
No, bad zoobs. No, you know what? You're getting hit with that again. That's the second time tonight that you got to hit with the no bad.
If Brad knew how to work the technology, he could mute me.
Shit. Mute you? What? That's way beyond my pay grade. I hit you with a meme.
So if they did the 24 deck, right, and you could customize 16 cards, right, when you build your army and have it be part of the army building step, then you could have 2 army specific, faction specific, or detachment specific secondaries, because then you could put them into that deck or choose whether or not you want them in that deck.
Agreed and more agreed.
Yeah.
And then theme those faction cards not around detachments, but actually on the flavor of how the army is.
Agreed.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I said around the detachments, because if you put them in the detachments, then you have what is supposed to be the flavor of the detachment to build into.
Putting 4 lightning bolts in my mission deck.
As long as you can saddle those.
Which, by the way, I went to a Magic event with a couple buddies, and I picked up a new favorite Magic card called the Giant Beaver. And you can saddle the Giant Beaver, which is absolutely hilarious.
Oh my!
And it also has vigilance. She know you've been cheating.
All right, you know what we're doing now? We're promoting random things before we go. 40klorecast.com.gov. I mean, it's not .gov, but fuck it. Just do 40K Lorecast. You'll find me. Also, join up on the Discord. The Discord's super active. It's awesome.
Yeah. And, of course, always promoting the Salt City GT at thesaltcitygt.com. Sign up today. We're starting to fill up pretty quick. So that's really big. We have a bunch of events going on, so definitely check that out. And not this weekend, but the weekend after, check out the stream from the Battle for Salvation Teams tournament. It's going to be very interesting. It'll be the full Art of War there, trying to take down another teams tournament. So it'll be fun to see if someone can topple them.
And as always, I'm recruiting to the Emperor's service.
On that note, Queens, wave us out of here, everyone.